Thank you, everyone. We're still continuing and going on. We still have a lot to share. And I'm very excited to introduce our colleague, Natalie. She is our partner managing person, right? She's helping us. We have been going through a nice experience in later time, and it has been great time to learn about Celonis tools, process discovery, the future of processes. So part of the digital transformation is not only to look at the machine, it's to look at the information flow. In operations, we have information flow, physical flow, money flow, returns flow, and even we have ethical. So most of when we look at Industry 4.1 digital transformation, we forget about the information flow. And big portion of our information flow is handled by ERP, by systems, by technology, by automation. And there are many fantastic opportunities to automate, to make our life simple, to do analysis. So especially today, I invited our colleague Natalie because she will give us something very important about the business execution. Don't just look at the machine, look at the whole business, marketing process, logistic process, planning process, procurement process. Big room for digital transformation, big room for learning, for adapting, for making our life easier. So Natalie, welcome to our conference.
Great. Thanks, Shireen, for the wonderful introduction, and thanks for having me here today. So exactly as you have mentioned, when we think about kind of digitalization, new technology, and like how can we leverage on this new technology to help you really visualize and understand your end-to-end processes. So hopefully in the next probably half an hour, I'd like to kind of share with you what Celonis does, and also how you can really leverage on your existing data to help you achieve your overall process excellence. And so with that, let me share my screen, but I think I'm having some issues with screen sharing. Okay. Perfect. I hope everyone can see my screen now.
Yes, it's very clear.
Cool. So welcome to the future of business execution. So as I've mentioned, so today we are going to kind of briefly talk about, who Celonis is, in case some of you might not actually know who we are, and talk about, the challenges that we are kind of helping to address. And I'll briefly touch upon, what our technology entails and how it actually works. And I've also brought in a live demo to show you how the platform works. And I think we have probably slotted some time at the end of the session for some Q&A. So feel free to add your questions in the chat. So let's just kickstart. So Celonis. So at Celonis, we help companies improve their business execution. We are one of the fastest growing technology company with over 1,300 of employees, and we're headquartered in Munich and in New York, and we have offices all over the world. We have also actually been growing at a hyper growth rate, with achieving over 100% year on year, and have done 2,000 successful deployments globally. Actually, more recently, we raised 1 billion, I think mid this year, and have reached a valuation of 11 billion. We first started off as a process mining company that focused on process transparency and helping our companies get an X-ray of their processes. And we now kind of slowly move towards helping these customers to take the next step and to improve their processes and helping them to achieve and identify like cost savings by providing them with the next best actions, recommendations, and automations. And I'm also very proud to say that we are recognized as the clear leader in the process mining technology by Gartner, Everest, and some of the other leading analysts. And also we are covering more than 60% of the market share in the process mining industry. So enough about Celonis. So what we are seeing here right now, I'm sure that many of you have seen or have personally experienced this challenge within your organization. So where processes are running on a very rigid and fragmented technology landscape. What we have here is basically a simplified diagram. So taking finance, for example, the invoicing process, where you first start with the creation of the invoices down to paying the invoices. There are so many source systems that are involved here, and even stakeholders, and where things may actually go wrong or tasks being executed late, leading to what we call as execution gaps, which is of course far from ideal state of running a streamlined process, or what Celonis call is running at full execution capacity. So this level of complexity actually makes it really difficult, for one to really understand what is actually going on in your processes, and therefore making it difficult for you to, act quickly to close those gaps and even to help drive, process improvements. And to add on to that complexity, I think also, from what we have seen, many companies are still relying on the traditional approach where you may be conducting large brown paper workshops with sticky notes, conducting one-to-one interviews with the SMEs, which might be subjective, and also you're only able to kind of obtain more of a partial view of processes without having a good understanding of where those handoff points might be. And of course, it's often a lengthy and costly process to get everyone into the same room. But more importantly, you only are able to kind of obtain a one-time snapshot of your as-is processes, capturing it on PowerPoint or even modeling tool. And sometimes this gets outdated. But luckily, and this is also where Celonis can come in to help you. So with process mining, what we do is we take a more data-driven approach using real-time digital footprint that's already existing in your source systems to give you a more objective and a more complete kind of end-to-end insight of your overall business processes. Of course, it's immediate based on the data that you can extract from the underlying source system. And even more, you can leverage on this insight to help you drive continuous improvement. So process mining is actually just one of the 5 key pillars that Celonis do, which we call it the Celonis Execution Management System or platform. So deep dive by kind of detailing those 5 pillars. The first pillar, real-time data ingestion. Basically, it's the lifeblood of the EMS platform. We have over 30 previewed extractors that allows you to really quickly extract data from your underlying source systems and desktop. So, what Sherry mentioned, from your ERP systems like SAP, Oracle, looking at ServiceNow or Salesforce, and even apps like Microsoft Excel or even Outlook. And once we have the data extracted, we can then provide the business context to it via the second pillar, which is process and task mining. This is basically the core foundation that makes up the EMS, which shows you exactly and also being able to visualize what is happening in your business processes. So not only just extracting transactional data found in the underlying source system, But with task mining, it allows you to capture desktop activities. So maybe, for example, a user might be looking at a PDF or doing something outside of your typical ERP system that really completes the picture of giving you the true 360 degrees and transparency of your process. The third pillar is planning and simulation. So this allows you to compare your actual as-is process today against the target or maybe best practice and process models, leveraging on maybe a BPMN that you might have already built today to really highlight those execution gaps. Simulation allows you, using Celonis pre-built and machine learning models to help you really understand and also plan how it might actually impact your overall processes if you were to make specific changes to different parts of your processes. So let's say, for example, if you want to kind of simulate maybe automating certain activities, how might that actually impact your end-to-end process? Or if you were to kind of reduce a certain time spent on an activity. The fourth pillar, visual and daily management, basically brings all of this together in the front end for employees or users to use it on a day-to-day basis. We have pre-built dashboard views for different roles of the company. So for example, coming down to analyst or a specialist in finance, team manager, up to execute the execs in the organization. And this really drives and allows every individual to focus on important insights, helping them to prioritize tasks, and also to provide the best actions to help everyone drive towards the same goal. Lastly, the action flows. So Celonis is not just able to obtain insights, but also allowing you to execute actions in the core system. So first, we identify those gaps that might be happening in the system, and then we can either alert people or directly automate in the core system. So all of these 5 pillars are what is actually needed to help you drive true operational excellence. So with that, I'll quickly jump into a live demo to actually bring this to life and show you how do we actually leverage this in your day-to-day basis. All right, so now let's see how Celonis is able to empower. In this example that I've brought today, it's an accounts payable organization. So how can we help them to achieve their company's kind of objectives and help identify those gaps? So during this demo, I'm just going to take 3 rows to show you how the different personas, as I've described before, in a company, how they can really leverage Celonis on their daily basis. So first off, let's imagine I'll now take on the role of a business process analyst. So what we have here is a dashboard that captures 3 major objectives that's actually critical to the management team or the leadership team to ensure the success of the accounts payable department. So first of all, improving the supplier relationships. Second, to reduce costs. Third, to improve working capital. And simply here, I'm already able to kind of track the core KPIs. For example, paid on time rate, touchless invoice rate, and days payable outstanding to the company's target. And also to compare our performance against the industry benchmark. So today I noticed that the organization is actually only achieving 51% of the paid on time rate, which is actually far below the target of the 75%, which the organization management team has set. And also Celonis already calculates that there's actually an opportunity for the organization to realize close to 1.5 million in savings from late penalties if they were to kind of close out any of those execution gaps or inefficiencies within the processes. So for me as an analyst, let's now deep dive further to understand, what's happening in the process. So based on the data that we extract from the ERP system or any other source system, I'm able to immediately visualize the end-to-end accounts payable process. So in this example, starting off from creating purchase order, recording the goods receipt, and recording the invoice receipt, posting of invoices, clearing of invoices. So by default, this is the most common path that this accounts payable process takes. But it actually only represents only 20% out of the 530,000 total of invoices. And only one of the process variants, which means what we are seeing right now is only one of almost 12,000 different ways this process is actually being executed. So as we expand it, we can very quickly see that the accounts payable, which we might think it's a simple process, is actually not as straightforward as it is maybe on paper. And this deviation that we see, we can quickly identify what causes it. So for example, this deviation might be due to changes required in text codes, and there might be price mismatches, and even constant quantity changes in the invoices. And if we further increase the complexity here, I think this is also a diagram that most customers are often shocked with, because it really deviates from in reality what you might actually think your process is. This is actually like the true operational cost of running a process across a very fragmented technology landscape. So me being like an analyst, let's deep dive further to really understand what's really impacting the paid on time rates. So on average here, as we have seen earlier in our dashboard, that the paid on time is only 51% in comparison to maybe the industry benchmark, or far from the company goals. And Celonis here very quickly help you to kind of surface what are the highest impact execution gaps. So here, as you can see, the most impactful one to the paid on time rate is the price mismatches, followed by incorrect text codes, late goods receipts, and quantity changes. So for now, let's focus on the one with the highest impact, which is the price mismatches. And what we can see here is with process mining and task mining, by zooming in on that, we can see that accounts payable specialists who are responsible for this, they're actually taking manual steps to resolve this price mismatch issue. And the activities captured in orange are those manual activities that is kind of taken outside of the source system. So the AP specialist would probably have to log on to the OCR, so the optical character recognition, and then they have to move on to opening the invoices, looking back at the images that's been captured, and then manually updating the prices accordingly to the original value. So here very quickly, we can really deep dive and understand what's causing it and the root causes to this low paid on time, leaving us to bring this rates down to 32%. And based on this, due to the inaccurate extraction of character from images by the OCR, this resulted in manual intervention by the user to verify the information with the original invoice and then updating it in the system. And this, of course, it's time consuming, costly, and therefore impacting the on-time payment rates. So as an analyst, I can still further drill down into different factors, but in this case, I can quickly identify that which regions are struggling the most. So for example, looking at the company code, Milwaukee here, it actually has the lowest paid on time rate of 28%. And actually it impacts the highest invoice value, close to 680 million. And of course, that impacts the highest number of invoices. So now as an analyst, with a few clicks, you can quickly conduct a deep dive into your process and identify what's impacting the paid on time rate based on the data itself. And therefore also helping you to shift the focus on where the attention or improvement initiatives is needed. So in order for the whole organization or the leadership to prioritize their improvement initiatives. Now let's take on the role, the role of a management team. So in order to address this huge gap, typically it may take time or it's difficult to do it at scale. So let's see how, as a leader, you can leverage on Celonis to drive this change to help them achieve the paid on time rate targets. So now I'll switch on, put on the hat of a team leader, an accounts payable team leader in Milwaukee. So when I log on onto Celonis, I'll be greeted by this dashboard, which captures an overview of the status of my in-flight invoices. And also it recommends me certain actions to take proactively to help address some of the most impactful execution gaps or inefficiencies within the process. And here what we can see here is as well, it's like 76% of the invoices have already been auto-posted. And by that, it means that no intervention is actually required from me at the moment. However, the issue is with the 24% remaining of invoices, which are actually causing me headaches. And there might be invoices that might have a risk of being paid late or missing discounts or accidentally being paid twice. Of course, this may negatively kind of impact the company's objectives and KPIs. So with that, I kind of proceed to act upon my first action, which is to review and remove all the payment blocks related to these invoices. So here we quickly kind of surface that 28 of these invoices, right, that have already been prioritized by Celonis based on the vendors were blocked due to price mismatches. So if we filter further into this 28 invoices, we realize that the mismatch is actually, the mismatch are not too much above the tolerance that the organization has set, so by a very small margin. And actually, what Celonis can also identify is that the mismatch value is much lower than the cost, average cost of processing an invoice. So if a team were to enter and kind of have a manual intervention to proceed to process this invoice, it would cost them on average $9. So with that, given these factors taken into consideration, what Celonis have actually recommended for the team lead is to unblock all of these invoices to proceed for further processing. So with a couple of clicks again, so we can remove the payment block. The risk of the invoices being paid late has been mitigated, whilst also reducing the operational cost of handling those invoices. So now let's move on a level deeper and moving on to the operational level. So now I will take on more of the accounts payable specialist who is responsible for managing all of these invoices. So again, I log on to Celonis and I'm greeted with this view that actually captures all the invoices that require my attention. So before Celonis, me as a specialist, what I'll need to do is actually go onto Excel documents, see which, assignment or invoices has been assigned to me. And then I'll have to manually log on to the ERP system to look for that specific invoice. But Celonis has given this view for me. And also what it has actually done is to also pre-prioritize the invoices based on the optimal payment date. So at this point in time, I know that I'll always be working on the most important or the critical invoices. So let's jump into one. Take, for example, this invoice. So here, actually, Celonis have already reviewed this invoice for me. And they've automatically detected that for this invoice, there's actually a wrong tax code being applied for this. But on top of that, they have also recommended me, the correct code for me to then, simply accept the recommendation, of course, if it's true, and directly execute the tax code for it to be updated. And again, as you can see, it's all conducted on this one platform and to help drive this overall efficiencies. And in this case, without delaying the process of posting the invoice, that would then help to improve the overall paid on time rate. So we have seen how Celonis serves as a platform and where work gets executed, and also ensuring that the employees at different levels are all still working toward achieving the same objective that the company has set. So with that, let me jump back to the presentation. All right, so, as Sherry has mentioned before as well, the AP demo that I've just showed you, we are just scratching the surface. Celonis can be applied across all of the processes throughout your value chain of your organization. So be it in the finance area and supply and distribution within the logistics process, warehouse management, and even from a customer facing perspective, looking at, the customer service and ITSM processes. We could really help leverage on, using Celonis to help you drive the value and help you identify inefficiencies throughout the processes. But that's also not it. And Celonis can also be leveraged to help you embark on your strategic or transformation initiatives. So take, for example, system migration. AB InBev, which is basically a large beverage company headquartered in the Netherlands. They have leveraged Celonis across over 30 of their ERP systems for their S/4HANA migration. We could help them to uncover their as-is processes, help them define the blueprint for their future state, and also ensuring that their migration went smoothly, ensuring that successful user adoption of the system, but also making sure that they meet the business and KPIs at the same time. Another example, like Siemens, they were embarking on the automation and digitization initiative, where they have leveraged Celonis to help them identify areas for optimization and automation. And with that, they were able to assess, score every single process based on how many activities are manual versus automated. And in the end, they managed to automate 15 million manual activities across their business units. And again, these are just a few initiatives or examples, use cases that Celonis can offer. We've also helped, in addition to processes across different value chain, across different digital transformation initiatives. We have helped customers across a wide range of industries with over 2,000 of successful deployments, from high tech to life sciences to the manufacturing industry, all helping these companies to remove their execution gaps in their processes and in the end drive business value for them. But of course, the successes that we had have also been achieved with the help of our broad ecosystem, like partnering up with Symbios-Consulting. And today we have over 15,000 of trained professionals and 1,500 consultancies who are part of this ecosystem to really help drive the implementation and change management. And this community can help you on your journey to identify those inefficiencies and improve your execution within your processes. So with that, I'm going to wrap up my presentation by 3 takeaways for you today. So number 1, process mining is an X-ray for your business processes. So it really gives you a full 100% transparency of your processes based on the existing data lying in your source systems. Secondly, EMS is an intelligent layer. So think of it as an orchestrator. We are system agnostic that sits across multiple source systems that enables you to look at your entire business process, regardless of where it flows, and helping you to identify and understand those bottlenecks. And third, and the last one, whilst process mining is the first step to help you identify those improvement opportunities, the real value or the real business value surfaces when you combine it with automation and machine learning capabilities. So all of this in one package, which is basically the execution management system, would help you to drive and accelerate digital transformation initiatives and to work towards your process excellence. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation and probably open the floor to questions. All right, can I actually see the questions?
Thank you, Natalie.
All right. Do we have any questions coming in? If not.
Yes, please. If anyone has a question, please write it down.
All right, so what infrastructure is needed for Celonis to work? So basically, Celonis is sitting on top of your source systems. We extract the data from your underlying system. So for example, say SAP. And then based on that, we would basically extract the data, push it onto the Celonis cloud, and then run the process mining. So essentially, I would say like the infrastructure is not needed in order to kind of conduct Celonis. But what we need to do is in order to kind of communicate with your underlying source system. So it's a relatively kind of easy setup as well. So Celonis have a number of like over 30 pre-built extractors and continue to grow as we collaborate with with partners or technology vendors to enable a more seamless connection to the underlying source system. So hopefully that answers your question, Ali. The next question is from Mohammed. Does the system have capabilities to interpret non-numeric data, text, and so on? So first of all, for process mining to work, we actually capture like three main attributes. So the first attribute is, of course, the unique ID. So again, thinking of like invoices, so it's your invoice number, or if you're to be looking at the service desk ticket, the ITSM, that will be the ticket number. The second one would be activities, where you then define like, okay, you know, when is the invoices created, or when is the ticket created. And the third one would be the timestamps that relates to that specific activity. So with this three, that's what we call as the event log, and to then visualize the end-to-end process. In terms of non-numeric data, I would kind of link it to like your task mining aspect, where, for example, again, relating to activities where a user might be browsing an Internet Explorer or Google Chrome, or viewing a PDF. So anything that's all like captured outside of the source system, and we are able to kind of bring that all together in order to visualize those activity steps to then provide you with the end-to-end process. Is the process mapping that was presented automatically generated based on data stored? Yes. So as I've kind of described before, so as long as the data is captured in the system, in your underlying ERP system, we can then run the transformation to then visualize what we have seen earlier, the end-to-end process. And of course, as your data updates based on the user using the underlying, using the ERP system, that process map would also be automatically update accordingly to, for example, the users who are generating those. How can I improve my business processes? Simple question, use Celonis to identify those inefficiencies, and hopefully leveraging on the other part of the action flows, helping you to execute the right actions and therefore driving the process excellence. All right, I think that's it.
Thank you, Natalie, for the nice presentation. And before we move on to the next speaker, I would like to share something quickly with everyone, which we call it the digital transformation triangle. Because basically, as she explained, we extract the data from SAP, from Oracle, from any ERP system. And based on this data, every data will have a unique case ID, where you have all the transactions, time trace, everything about this is stored in your ERP. When you extract it, upload it to Celonis or the process mining tool, you get the outcome in few minutes. It doesn't take so much time. So before we move to Jessie, and I want to reflect on what Natalie has been saying, the digital transformation, we look at three dimensions. It's a triangle. You need to have your own manufacturing execution system, your own IIoT devices, cloud computing, everything. It's about execution of people and the equipment. This generates lots of data. So on the left, you invest a lot in analytics and data mining, And on the right, you invest as well on process mining. So that's what we call process mining or process discovery. It's a way for companies to make use of huge data, big data, lots of data are generated. It's like a golden mine. So instead of just looking at your dashboard, looking at KPIs, you have a golden chance to link process steps, what happened in each process, to your key performance indicators, and explain why. We do lots of audits. So instead of doing the audit, you can do e-audit or digital audit, looking at the process compliance. So we use tools like Celonis to audit the real process. Is the reality complying with what we have in our systems and standard operating procedures? We look at the process variance because we tend to believe the process follows the step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But in reality, it might be one step 1, 4, 5. Sometimes it goes 1, 3, 2, goes back and forth and ping pong. That's what we all suffer from. So to have one version of truth, you take everything from SAP, map your processes end to end, upload it to the process discovery tool, which is Celonis in our case, map it, and everyone starts generating why it's happening. Aha, what are my service level agreements? What are my process variants? What is going on in reality? So it's similar like what we do in manufacturing and lean and process improvement when we talk about process going back and forth and spaghetti diagram. You can see this with the tools. So what comes as well, as she explained, we can do low-code things like automating some process steps in accounts payable and receivables, even sending emails to your suppliers, sending emails to your customers, reading invoices, uploading it to your ERP system. So it's beautiful. What I really like, that technology is taking us to a new dimension where you can do a lot and improve a lot. So people who are interested to know about usage, the price, you can connect to us. It's easy. We help companies with, it's not that expensive at all. And you can contact us directly to help you with it. So Natalie, do you like to add anything before we move on to Jessie?
No, thanks a lot for that. I think that really wraps it up very nicely. Yeah, so I definitely look forward to working together with Symbios, together with you, and helping you drive your process excellence. So thanks a lot for having me here today, and I'll hand over to you. Thank you.